The most popular trainers on social media, they are not the best trainers. They're just good at marketing themselves or being entertaining or putting things in a good package that looks nice. That doesn't mean that they are necessarily going to know how to help you solve your problems.
A lot of these people and influencers are filming themselves doing these crazy exercises, super complicated. They shut the camera off and then go do the simple stuff. And that's what their at workouts actually are.
I wanted to make sure that I could bend down, pick up the kids. I had 3 kids, 3 babies. I had to carry 2 car seats at once, so I needed to be strong.
There's a huge obesity problem. 75% of people are classified as overweight according to the CDC. 37 to 40% are classified as obese. 10% are severely obese.
It deters more people than it encourages. So it's like really actually counterproductive.
How do we reach those people who don't seemingly want to be as fit and healthy as we would want for them?
Welcome back to the Longevity Lab here at Peak City Gym. Today we are referencing a video that Kevin Carr came out with a few weeks ago, I believe now, where he kind of discusses the state of the fitness industry online and how we're failing the people that need us the most. Today we're going to discuss and kind of open it up to everybody here at the gym on what that means to them and how we could do better, because we are definitely part of the problem in some ways, but you kind of have to play the game.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. We can be part of the problem. We were just talking a few minutes ago on what posts actually have done the best for us recently, and it kind of depends on what you look at, right? So stories of our members definitely do the best. So even though we would call them like testimonials, a lot of times a testimonial is really like, oh, the trainers at Peak City Gym are so great, blah, blah, blah. We try to stay away from those and more talk about like, what was your experience like? How did you start? What was your starting point? And what was the journey like to get to achieving your goals? And so those seem to do very well, but a lot of the times the people that are actually doing them, doing those stories are the people who focus a little bit more on optimizing, and they're a little bit more towards the weirder end, as Kevin Carr said, and fit more with us, who are definitely the weird ones who do plan our weeks around our workouts. And maybe we don't track every single calorie every single week, but we're at least conscious of that type of stuff. So I thought it was very interesting. And honestly, when you look at those stories that have done well, it's usually other members who know those members who wrote the stories that are actually liking it. If you look at what has done well with non-followers or non-members online, Keegan has put together on a platform called School, a mobility program. And basically, I clipped an intro that he did talking about back pain, and then put one exercise that we do with our lightest yellow band. And you could do it at home. You definitely don't need to come to a gym. And basically, we do that as a warm-up exercise a lot of times. It's not in any type of fitness program, but it's really for the hip flexors. You can make it work on balance a little bit. And we're brand new to TikTok, so these might not be impressive numbers to others who have been on there for a while. I resisted for as long as humanly possible to get on that platform. But it has over 700 saves, and I can safely tell you that that's about 700 times more than any other exercise video we've posted that has been saved. We do Technique Tuesdays, and that'll be kettlebell swings and all kind of normal exercises that we do in the program. But somehow this banded exercise that I posted like 3 weeks ago that Keegan demonstrated as part of his mobility course on School is getting 700 saves and is still racking up likes like no other thing that we've ever posted before. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I don't know what you guys think.
Real quick, if you guys are interested in the school, I'll leave a link to it down below in the description, and then also a QR code. If you're watching on some other device, you can just scan the QR code and get directly to that website.
I mean, if you look at like a lot of stuff on the internet, like they've been around forever, but like the 10-minute workout, the like 20, 30-minute workouts, I mean, they sell a lot because people are looking for something, like he said, something simple, something they can get done fast, but they'll also see the results. Now, I think part of the problem with those programs is the people that are selling them are all like, yeah, all right, we're gonna do a 20-minute workout. 10 of them are gonna be like lunge jumps, squat jumps, and it's like, all right, well now my knees are breaking down. I'm just starting to get into this. Like maybe let's not just go with like 20 minutes of jumping and super high intensity stuff. But that is a area where it's like, yeah, you don't need to do like an hour, 2 hour workouts in the gym where people look at that and they're like, like I look at marathon training where I'm like, that looks miserable. Like I would
Mhm.
never do that. And they're probably looking at the like, some of those stuff that we would do in our workouts, like personally, being like, oh, that looks terrible. I would never do that. And be like, well, you don't have to do that. You only need to do, especially when you're first starting out, is like you said, just do something. Something is better than nothing. If it's like, hey, go out for a walk, right?
Mm.
You can, I know we've had some members do this, take a light weighted vest, make it a little bit more intense. It doesn't have to mean you start running for 10 minutes, right? It's as simple as go for a walk and then sometimes throw on like a little vest or, carry something that has like, 5, 10 pounds. Like you can increase intensity that way or just walk faster,
Yeah.
Mhm.
right?
The social media and just who a lot of the most popular creators are talking to is not to the general population. It's become more of this echo chamber of people who are either experts or higher level in the fitness industry, and they're more communicating to them, but it's really engaging and interesting and kind of magical for someone who in their head imagines they would never be able to do that, and they're like, oh wow, that's incredible. I remember a while ago, I was still living in LA at the time, so maybe 10 years ago now, I or 8 years ago now, the something went viral. It was even on ESPN, and it was Bradley Martin jumping out of a pool.
I
I do
remember
remember
that.
that.
Yeah, that was so long ago, but it stuck to me because that's just incredible and wild, and it started so many different businesses and projects for him just based off of that one video that got onto ESPN's like top 10. But like, did that provide value to the general population? No, but it's something that people are trying to chase because it does mean money, popularity, fame, whatever they're trying to search for. Doing these crazy, intense, like wonderful things is just attention. It gets dopamine, it gets the potential for money, and it's very enticing. So I totally get it. And I mean, we have to kind of play that game a little bit in some of our marketing and advertising of like trying to attract people through aspirational posts is kind of what I want to like categorize it as is people aspire to be X, Y, and Z. So we have to share that to kind of get people who would not normally be interested in the gym to be like, oh, maybe I could do that, or that's really cool. I want to try that.
It is an interesting game because, like you were saying, we do have to play that game a little bit, and there are people that aspire to wanting to do some of that stuff. But as Brendan was saying with the marathon runner, some of it's like, yeah, no, that sounds miserable, and I don't care if I could do it. I
Mhm.
don't want to. And when you look at some of the statistics, I have some here. You know, there's a huge obesity problem, obviously, right? We know that 75% of people are classified overweight as overweight according to the CDC. We know that 37 to 40% are classified as obese, and almost 10% are severely obese. Uh, that's just adults. 21% of children and teens are also obese. And then when you look at, okay, well, how many people actually have gym memberships? 1 in 4 people have gym memberships in America. Now, some of those people are the like $10 a month, and not that there's anything wrong with those type of gyms, but how many of them are actually utilizing their gym memberships? Definitely not that many. In fact, they anticipate only 7 to 15% of people with gym memberships utilize them regularly and actually meet the, well, sorry, use them regularly. And then 47% of people in America meet aerobic training requirements set out by the federal government, and 24% meet it for strength training per week. So those are not very big numbers when you're talking about meeting requirements. They are very big numbers when we're talking about obesity. And in 2017, there was a study done, and it said that even if you're normal weight or overweight or obese, the number for overfat Americans, so just having too much body fat as part of your composition, again, even if you're normal weight, is 91% for adults and 69% for children.
Wow.
And I mean, at first when I read that, and we can link that study too. At first, when I read that, I'm like, that seems wildly large. But then, I mean, when you look at pictures, when you look and talk to people, when we do some of our body fat composition analyses, it's like, wow, all right. Even if some of the people like seem like, yeah, that seems like a good body weight to have, they are carrying around too much excess fat. And so I think that when it comes to playing the game and being aspirational and all that, we're still one almost trying to impress each other in the fitness industry, which you kind of touched on. And then two, we're really talking to the people who are kind of already on the fence. Like, I know I should and I want to. I just haven't
Mm.
really figured out how it fits into my lifestyle yet. But there's this vast majority of Americans that are like, nah, bro, I'm good. And they don't really, seem to want it for whatever reason, despite all of the stuff that's out on social media saying all the risks and inherent dangers of continuing on that lifestyle. So I guess, how do we reach those people who don't seemingly want to be as fit and healthy as we would want for them?
Well, I mean, we always talk about like in order to make a change, a lot of times it has to be emotional, right? So maybe we're not doing a good enough job like tying that emotional connection. Like, what would your
Mm.
life be like if you were to be healthier? What would your
Mm.
life be like if you were to carry less fat? What would you be able to do that you can't do now? Like, we have a lot of people that come in, like some of their goals are like, I just want to be able to get on the ground and play with my grandkids. There's plenty of people in this country that cannot do that because they're not able to get down on the ground or they're not able to get back up, and they don't necessarily maybe know what they're missing out on. They don't know, like, hey, you could be doing a lot of this stuff. You could be having more fun than you already are, but you don't know what you're missing out because maybe like you read this stat about like, X amount of, parents and then look at their kids. Well, a lot of times like, habits get passed on,
Yeah.
right? So there's people who have been obese their entire life, and like that's just all they know. They don't know what it's like to be able to like, run, jump, and like keep up. Where it's like, yeah, I mean, this is just kind of how I've always been, right? So we need to be able to spark some sort of emotion and kind of like show them like, hey, there is more to this. Like it can get better, and all it takes is again something simple where it's like just a couple times a week, right? Start small. And then we talk about this in our classes all the time. Like, we're not trying to set PRs on our very first day. Like, baby step it in and like, let's just start making small changes. Small changes add up to end up being big changes over time.
Yeah. Uh, Jessica, we just had a conversation about how you had a little hiatus from training and you just kind of got back into it. And specifically that you kind of went online to find the person
Hmm.
to help you with that. What was your experience? It's been a little bit now, but what was your experience on social media finding someone that you could feel like you trusted to help you in your situation?
First of all, I chose a mom because I needed somebody who could relate to the experience that I had just gone through. So I feel like who better to do that than a fellow woman who has gone through pregnancy herself. So I chose a coach to do that. And also, I feel like chose someone who stuck to simple exercises.
Mhm.
I feel like sometimes I wanted to make sure that I could bend down, pick up the kids. I had three kids, three babies. I had to carry two car seats at once. So I needed to be strong.
Muscles.
Yeah, I needed to have muscles. So I needed to be able to get up and get down and stuff like that. So jumping out of a pool, something like that is not going to entice me. But seeing a mom run around with her kids and then go to the gym in between her lunch break and lift some weights, just doing simple, basic exercises and then breaking it down in a simple way that I could do it 3 times a week with my busy schedule and then giving me a good guidance when it came to nutrition. So,
Well, what's frustrating about like a lot of the Instagram like game and social media game is a lot of these people and influencers are filming themselves doing these crazy exercises, super complicated. They shut the camera off and then go do the simple stuff, and that's what their at workouts actually
Yeah.
are. they're playing a game, they're just diving like full into it. But
Mm.
when they go and you like, hey, what is your actual workout? It's like, oh, I do push-ups, I do squats. I don't, like they're not tying. There's one video that always stuck in my mind, and it was like a little bit of satire where it was this guy and it was, everything's banded exercises, and the
Yeah.
guy's up on a pull-up bar. He's got like 9 bands around him, and he's
Mm.
like kind of stuck just hanging there. And it's like I feel like that's what a lot of Instagram and social media has become, where it's like, dude, that's ridiculous. Like, where do you even fit that
Mm.
into a workout? Let alone how do you even see results? And it's like, oh, well, they shut off the camera, they go back, and then they sit down and like do their actual workouts, which are just the basics, like you were talking about.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Basics build muscle, they build strength, they build confidence in your ability to move, but it doesn't get views because it would be the same thing everywhere.
Right.
What helps people is never going to get views because it's simple, dead simple stuff like tracking macros or at least tracking what you're eating and being cognizant of it, and then keeping simple movements that hit all of the movement patterns we have. If you just focus on those things, you're 99% of the way there. The remaining 1% is what you see on social media. Like, yeah, it could help you if you're trying to absolutely maximize whatever specific thing that exercise is maximizing for, like the peak on your bicep. I remember when I was doing bodybuilding and you like try to find the best bicep exercises. It's like, ooh, do this one, and you get a little bit sharper of a peak, or do this one and you get a little bit wider of a bicep. It's like 0.5% difference. It doesn't really make a difference, but it gets views, it gets people engaged, and sometimes it is beneficial just for the novelty of it and getting people interested in doing something different. Because otherwise, you could just be bored as hell sitting in the gym doing the same 15 movements for 15 years and get great results, but you'd probably be pretty bored.
Yeah, and I think that's where some of our attention spans like hurt us because we're always like, what's the new car? What's the new iPhone? What's the new this? What's the new that? And then it transfers into the fitness world where
Mm.
it's like, well, what's the new exercise? Well, what's the new workout plan? We get people in here when they first start that like, well, how do you change it up all the time? And it's like, we don't. Like I mean, like, why would
We
we?
don't.
Like, we'll change, tempo or where we're like, where the load is being held and things like that. But like, we're going to squat,
Yeah.
every month we're going to do some sort of hinge. I mean, we kind of align a lot of times with Dr. John Russin, where it's like we do the same 6, 7 main movement patterns, just slightly differently, because again, that's how you're going to progress. You do wildly different workouts all the time. You never get like good at anything. You're just
Mm.
like, I'm kind of all right at a bunch of different exercises. Well, that's not going to help you see the progress. So I think our attention spans like really hurt us in a lot of ways. So if we can figure out that issue, that would be great.
Yeah, well, I think too that, one, social media is a highlight reel no matter what industry or what family or person you're following. So you don't always see all the work that goes into it. And then you're looking at not just a highlight reel, but usually the final results. Because honestly, when you talk to people in here, it's very easy to see the ones that are like completely fine with you videoing them and taking their picture and all that type of stuff. The ones that are a little bit more relatable to the ones that we would be trying to reach, they are not okay with you taking their picture or videoing them and putting them online. And to be honest with you, is if we're doing relatable exercises like Keegan was in that one video, even then we still kind of get like, oh, Jess, yeah, she's a mom and everything, but she's probably never had to deal with any type of obstacle or anything. She's just always naturally been fit. Which, if you listen to her podcasts and things, that's not entirely true. We've all had our own obstacles in terms of like achieving our fitness goals and things like that. So I think just social media in general being the highlight reel that it is, and then also in fitness can be off-putting. It can be intimidating. And people do think that you have to change up the exercises or programs or whatever to achieve these results because, well, this person's doing all these crazy band exercises. This person's jumping out of a pool. Do I start in my bathtub? Like, what do I do?
Mhm.
And and so like they don't understand that like one part of it is for show and gimmicks and clicks and stuff, and two that the basics do work. We have a brand new person here. She's been here maybe a month and a half now, and when she first came, she has been telling me that she's always had knee issues, and whenever she tried other things before, it was always a limiting factor, and she'd always end up having to stop because of the knee injury. We started her out on TRX lunges, actually TRX split squats. Then those improved to TRX reverse lunges. Then last night she was doing curtsy lunges with no TRX at all, and was amazed that like, oh wow, my knee doesn't hurt. It hasn't hurt out in daily life. It's just been great, and she was amazed by that. And I can tell you, no exercises that we did leading up to that point were fancy. TRX lunges or TRX split squats are also not something that's going to get a bunch of clicks, so not many people are going to post that type of stuff. And it really is amazing when people get to the point where they're like, I can't believe I did that with no pain, or I can't believe I progressed to doing this without a TRX and now my balance is better. That's the stuff that's going to improve your quality of life, not being able to match some shirtless dude on Instagram who did some exercise once and it wasn't even part of his actual training program to get the results that he's showing off.
A lot of the things you'll see is like Brennan was saying, they'll go and do the normal stuff or the boring stuff after whatever amazing things they did. And like we do that too. We experiment, try new things,
Yeah.
and like see if we like it, if it feels good, or if there's modifications that we can make to our own workout to fit it in. But also the years and years that these people took to get to that point of whatever aspirational body they had, it was just doing the basic stuff 100% of the time. They weren't doing all this crazy, interesting things to get to where they were. They can do it now because they've spent years building up the foundation through just standard movement patterns to get to that state. And it's really disingenuous, but they're also so incentivized to do it because of the state of social media and the ability to frankly just make millions and millions of dollars shaking your butt or doing whatever interesting thing or whatever catches people's eyes entertaining on social media. You don't even have to be good at what you do, but if you're entertaining enough, people are going to click on it and you're going to be more likely to make more money and get more views. And it's just the state of the human condition and the state of social media.
I think going back to something that you kind of touched on where it's like, oh, just like who she's probably never gone through like anything. I think the part of that just kind of talks about our culture where it's like we're a culture that makes excuses. Where it's like, I can't do that because she can do that because of this, but like I actually have troubles and like, well, we all do. We're just used to not making excuses, not taking accountability for the things like our shortcomings or things that like, well, I'm comfortable in what I'm doing, and to change that'd be too uncomfortable. And it's like, well, that's how she got where she is, or that's how he got where he is he constantly puts himself in uncomfortable situations, right? Where like obviously an uncomfortable state, which is like exercising, right? There's not too many people that walk into a gym, do comfortable workouts where they're just kind of hanging out, whatever, and then see progress. Like you're constantly uncomfortable in the gym, and not in a bad way, right? But that's how you see progress. You have to push yourself. You have to get uncomfortable, right? And I think that's where like we have a lot of shortcomings is just like where we constantly make excuses. We don't hold anyone accountable or ourselves accountable, I should say. And so it's just easier to be like, well, yeah, but they don't have the things that I have that's going on. Well, sometimes they have harder things and they're still able to do it.
I know I've seen this with Jessica, the ever changing goalpost that people have in terms of comparing themselves and their excuses they can have. What do you want to talk a little bit about what your experience with that ever moving goalpost of, oh, you can do that because X, Y, Z, or wait until X, Y, and Z?
Oh, I do feel like I hear that quite a bit. The first is wait till you have kids, and then they'll be surprised to find out that I have a whole gaggle of them at home. So, yeah, I have kids. And then it's like, oh, wait till you turn 40. And I'm like, that's coming up next month. So, and I know that we were talking a little bit about it earlier, and the older we get, the harder it is. So that's why it's so important to get into the gym the sooner that you can, because the sooner that you start working on these things, the later on in life you won't have to worry about, can I bend down to pick up my child? Can I run around with my grandkids when I'm 65, 70? You know what I mean? And so I think that there's always going to be obstacles in your life that are going to constantly move that goalpost. Everybody has their own challenges, but like you said, there's always going to be an excuse. it's up to you if you're determined enough and have that commitment to make the change, because in the end, the results are going to be exactly worth what you work for. So
Yeah.
I think without even realizing it, you kind of made the perfect segue, because when I was planning out this podcast, I was talking about, what are the traps that keep people on the hamster wheel of like, I tried, never mind, and they just either continue to maintain their unhealthy lifestyle or get even unhealthier, as we see in these statistics. Uh, what is it that keeps them on that hamster wheel? And one of the things is that, well, what worked for them won't work for me because they have this, that, and it's a bunch of assumptions that don't really add up. And like you were saying, it's a bunch of excuses. And then similarly, again with the highlight reel, people are talking about like, well, if that worked for them, it should work for me, and they don't really see all the other work that goes into it. So
Yeah.
for example, when you just put us through some of the Pilates stuff in our staff meeting, right? I can go ahead and deadlift a whole bunch of weight, and it's like, all right, I feel good. It was challenging and all that type of stuff. But then I got wrecked in some of those Pilates exercises that really I felt like, well, I should not be wrecked right now, and
Yeah.
this should not be as hard as it is. And so I think what people do is like look at, maybe some of the stuff that Jess is going to do for Pilates or yoga or whatever else. And they're like, well, that should work for me. That worked for them. All they do is yoga, or all they do is this. And it's like, no, that's not true. Right? That is definitely not true. Strength training, watching what you eat, getting a good amount of rest, like all of that stuff is hugely important. And it's a multifactorial process. It's not one specific thing that's the easy answer that like, as long as I do yoga, then I should be like lean and toned and healthy. And that's just not how it works.
Well, yeah, a lot of things get taken out of context, right? Especially with like, I mean, what is it, like shorts that are really popular right now? That's what the algorithm's driving, is like shorts or like small short reels or
Yeah.
whatever it is. So it's like you get these little clips and you're like, oh, well, that must be true. And it's like, well, you missed the entire 10-minute conversation around that
Mm-hmm.
15-second clip that you just watched. So like, take it in context, right? Like, yeah, they do, Pilates, they do this. And you talk to people and they're like, I want these goals, right? Like, this is what I want to achieve. And then it's like, okay, well, in order to get there, you have to do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, oh, I'm not willing to do that.
I just want to do Z.
Yeah.
You have
Like,
to
I just want to do,
compound your
yeah.
habits. That's the
Right.
whole
Or
point.
like, I'm
Yeah.
really good at Z. So like, I'll stick with that. But like the X and Y, like, that's not for me. And it's like, well, if you want these goals, you got to do all three. Right.
Yeah.
So you got to train, you got to recover, and then obviously, watch what you eat and it's also part of recovery. But it's like, I mean, when I say recovery, I mean sleep, things like that people also like to ignore. But it's like, you got to do all three, right? So yeah, taking things in context would also probably be a big help.
One of the biggest things that I think social media falls victim to, or people who are on social media fall victim to, is the majoring in the minor and minoring in the major. Basically focusing on the really small details, like the crazy exercise that builds the peak in your bicep instead of a general bicep curl that's going to build your entire bicep. And they get carried away with these minor things getting 1% better, when in reality, if they did something far simpler, they would get 15 or 20% better. So it's very interesting. We're following that shiny thing, finding the new thing, but just focusing on the simple, basic things of the simple principles of strength training, recovery, eating our protein. Those things are going to get you 99% of the way there. And if you want a little bit extra progress from that point, then you can kind of look at the other things. But you've got to be consistent with that first. If you're not consistent with any of those things, then it doesn't matter what extra you're doing, because you can't get the bare minimum of what's going to progress you towards that end goal.
But Keegan, I can't stay motivated to do that.
Mm-hmm.
What you guys are just so motivated all the time. I always like that, because it's like, no, we're not. I'm not motivated to get up super early and come in here and like do front squats or any other type of exercise. A lot of times it's just, I know how I'm going to feel afterwards. I also know how I'm going to feel during it, which sometimes is not great.
Yeah.
Sometimes
actually
it's
very
like, man,
demotivating.
this is definitely going to be difficult. I really don't feel like doing this set. But I know what it's going to provide for me in the long term, especially if I'm consistent. If I go into something with the mindset of like, well, I just have to do this for 6 weeks and then I should be in the shape that I want to be in, and that like that's not going to work. And we know some people, even in our own family. One of them tried to do Whole 30, and her entire mindset was, "I'm only doing this for 30 days. I can just," and you're white knuckling your all of your nutrition and workout habits. You can't have that mindset. Like you have to already accept the fact that, hey, I might not be motivated all the time, or as long as I get these foundational things down, there might be something that now does motivate me a little down the line because I've mastered the basics. I can now do X, Y, Z, and that might be a little bit more motivating then, but not every single day are you going to be motivated to do the workout or eat the food that you should eat, or set up your schedule to get the amount of rest that you need to get. But the point is, you have to have that discipline and that consistency in order to get the results and everything that will get you the motivation back when it starts to dwindle.
I think the first thing you need to do is create the habit, because if you don't brush your teeth every day, what happens to your teeth? They're going to rot and fall out. You need to take care of your teeth. We need to take care of our bodies. So you need to make a habit of taking care of your body every day, because if you don't do it, then eventually it's not going to take care of itself.
When
Motivation.
Go ahead.
Motivation's a response to doing something. You have to provide action for yourself to like get motivated. You're not just going to feel motivation, because that's a feeling. It's going to be fleeting. But if you're just, I like to say a bare minimum of whatever activity I'm going to do, like going to the gym. I really don't want to go to the gym that day. I'll commit myself to driving to the gym. Once I get to the gym, I feel pretty silly if I then back my car back out and then leave. Like I'm just more motivated to participate in the gym, but I got myself there by just saying I can leave, but I just have to arrive.
Oh, I mean, how many of our people, when they walk in and you're like, "Hey, how are you?" and they're like, "I'm here," and then by the end, by the end of it, they're like, "I'm really glad that I did that." They seem way more upbeat and everything like that. We're only motivated because of rewards. The problem is, this is something that doesn't always provide an immediate reward, and we are constantly looking. I think you said it. We are constantly looking for those dopamine hits, whether that's from the food that we're eating, or it's like, the exercise that we want to do and it didn't, quite go as well, or whatever it is. We're looking for those quick dopamine hits. And that's just not the way that it goes in the health and fitness.
I think touching on what Jessica said, where it's like you have to build the habit. Building the habit takes a lot of the thinking away.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So like we always talk about like the path of least resistance. Well, if you have to think a lot about it, you're probably less likely to do it. So if you create the habit, right, it takes some of the thinking away from it or out of it. And then it's like you're more likely to do it. Right. So what do we hear all the time? I don't okay, just throw on the weights. Like, I don't want to think about it. I come in here because you guys write the workouts. I don't have to think about it. Right.
Yeah.
Taking a lot of
Mm-hmm.
the thinking away, right? It's this is just what I do, right? I don't have
Mhm.
to think about it. I set my alarm, I wake up, I drive there. I don't even have to think about how to get there because I've been there like so many times. It's just what I do. I show up, they have the workouts written for me, or I have my plan written for me. I go to XYZ and I just do it, right? And it's again, once it's a habit, it becomes you actually kind of feel weird when you don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you stick with the habit, you'll see the results,
Mhm.
and then
Right.
that provides the motivation for you to continue coming.
You build self-efficacy, or the belief in yourself, and that
Mhm.
provides more motivation, more determination, and just more belief in yourself that you can do hard things.
Mhm.
And you're more likely to try new things. You're more likely to succeed at those new things by just keeping yourself honest by doing something that you told yourself you were going to do.
Mhm.
It doesn't have to be anything crazy. Again, tell yourself you're going to drive to the gym and sit in the parking lot for 5 minutes. And if at that point you still want to go home, but at least make the drive.
I also like what you talked about with the majoring and the minor.
Mhm.
I know Shane likes to tell this where it's like, hey, like I heard turmeric's good for you. It's like, well, so is not eating at Taco Bell 3 times a week. Let's focus on
We
that.
still have Chick-fil-A sauce right here.
Right? So like let's focus on that. Or like when you're just like, well, what bicep back curl is gonna get like and it's like, why don't you just do curls and then like, maybe we can worry about that down the line, right?
Mm.
So I think like again, taking some of the thinking away, right, kind of, will help with that. Where it's like, don't worry about like just worry about being consistent. Don't worry about like what is the most optimal right off the bat. Once you're consistent, then let's go ahead and start like trying to be the most optimal we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah.
Which is the issue on social media. Those people are seeing people jumping out of the pool and they can't even bend down to pick up a pen off the floor. So it's like you got to start with the simple things before you lead you up
Which
to.
how many people do you think hurt themselves trying to jump out of a pool after seeing that
Yeah.
video, like
I don't even
just
think-
smashing their shins?
I mean,
or
if
like
kids
maybe not
ate
even getting
Tide-
If
out?
they were
Yeah.
able to get to their shins, I'm still impressed.
Well, I was gonna say, like, probably not even like just end up like smashing their hips against the side of the pool. Like, you can almost be like, that's counterproductive when it's like, yeah, it's really cool, but it actually like deters again, it deters more people than it encourages. So it's like really actually counterproductive.
Like it doesn't show you're capable of anything. That doesn't translate into anything beneficial for your health or for your day-to-day life. I've tried to jump out of a pool. When that came out, I was a lifeguard at the time, and I was like, I could probably do this because I was going into being a D1 athlete at the time. Like I was fit
Oh, so you were like
and strong.
17 or 18.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And and I tried, and I was like, nah, that's not happening.
I could do it in one of those like gradual pools that goes
Yeah.
down and get like ankle deep and be like, I
Baby.
can jump out of this.
Yeah, you give me some stairs, I got
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna say, I think one of the other things with social media, especially, and I guess they are trying to reach some of the people that we're talking about, but it's always like, what is the easiest way to do this? You can do this, and achieve these results, lose this amount of weight, do whatever, without having to change your diet, without having to work out with it. And I'm like,
Isn't that cool
How do you-
sculpting?
yeah. Right. How are you appealing to these? Like, there is going to be challenges. Like, have you ever tried to climb a hill or a mountain with no traction or friction? No, you just slide right back down to the bottom. So you need that friction, you need that traction, you need those obstacles to actually get to the peak of where you're trying to get to. That's where the great sights are when you get to the top of the mountain. The process, yeah, it's not that great. Sometimes when you look back, you're like, that was awesome. I can't believe I did that, whatever. But, if you didn't have the traction and the friction to get to the next level and get to the eventual peak, then you're just still down at the bottom. You slide right back down. So I think that's something that definitely, when people think that it's going to be easy and then they realize they're like, oh, it's not that easy, and they hit their first obstacle, it causes them to turn right back around and be like, never mind, that didn't work for me. And so I think we need to be a little bit more realistic with people. Like, hey, this is going to take work. It is going to take effort. But the rewards at the top, they're definitely worth it when you're able to play it with your grandkids on the ground and, live not just a long life, but a quality of life.
There are so many times that I have to pull people back from whatever they want to do or whatever they think they need to do to just be like, nah, let's start super basic. Start with what's really going to provide you with the best bang for your buck, and then also limit injury risk. A lot of these exercises we haven't mentioned is like you're just having a higher likely of injury because it is more complicated, but like it doesn't provide you a significantly more benefit towards strength. And that's why we don't do back squats or why we don't do straight bar deadlifts is like, yeah, it can get you really strong, it can build muscle, but it's not worth the risk of coaching or of injury that comes with those exercises inherently that we need to do them.
Well, not only that, but this goes along with the whole changing everything up too frequently or thinking that you have to go super intense or whatever it is. But people want to program hop constantly, and there's definitely multiple roads leading to the same destination, but it takes you a lot longer if you're constantly switching your route, or you just never end up getting there. You end up going in circles, and like I said, it's the hamster wheel. You end up in the same position or in a worse off position by not just sticking to a route, giving it time, giving it the consistency and discipline, and you avoid a lot of injuries and other unnecessary things by sticking to that plan.
I mean, if you think about it like college tuition, right? It's like, well, I'm trying to get a degree, but I keep changing my major. And it's like, well, now you're 9 years into college and all you've done is rack up a bunch of college debt. Like,
Yeah.
but you still don't have that degree.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, right? Like now you're just in a bunch of debt and that's going to end up hurting you.
Yeah.
And you still didn't achieve the goal. Like it's the same thing in path hopping. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
all
Now
you're
you
doing
have to be a lifelong student just to avoid paying them back. Oh, that's hilarious.
How can we focus on following this path that we've now set? Like, all right, so I want to achieve losing 15 pounds or building 10 pounds of muscle. What are the steps that I need to take in order to start to move in that direction?
I think what you just said already assumes that they have like a specific goal, where a lot of the people, they don't. I mean, even coming in here, someone would be like, I'm interested in the gym. I saw this. Now those people are already on the fence. They know they want to do something, but you ask them like, awesome. So what are your goals? And it's like, need to lose weight. Like, okay, like how much? Or I want to tone. Like, okay, what does that mean to you? And they really don't know. They hear kind of buzzwords, or maybe their doctor told them to lose weight. And this ties back to what you said at the beginning, is there's not that emotional connection. They just know, like, I just know I need to do something. I'm not sure how it will improve my life. I'm not really sure that losing the 15 pounds or gaining 5 pounds of muscle, what that'll actually mean for me. It just sounds good. I saw it in a video.
They're strong and they seem confident. I want that.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
So I think it's like the first thing is, and this may take some guidance. You might not be sitting on your couch and just know, like, all right, I'm going to set some clearly defined goals. It may be through conversation with, one of us or somebody else, or you find a coach online, and it's like, what are your goals? How does that impact your life? By achieving these goals, how does that improve your current situation? And then I think from there is what you determine what the path is.
Finding out your why. Why are you here?
Yeah.
And it's never the first why. When you are finding out your why, it's never whatever you say first. Ask yourself why that why is important. So I want to lose 15 pounds because my doctor said I had to, or because I feel a little overweight. But like, why is that 15 pounds important to you? Or why is what your doctor says important to you? Is it health? Is it aesthetics? It's usually not aesthetics as the underlying cause. It's some other thing, like you're afraid of a disease that runs in your family, or you're afraid of not being able to hang out with your grandkids or get down on the floor. And that weight is just a symbol of you trying to achieve one of those things. But it can take some time and some self-reflection for you to really understand where that desire to lose weight is, or where that desire to get more fit is. So take some time with yourself and sit with it and be like, why do I actually want to do this? And if it's something that's not intrinsic, like you're looking for validation from someone else, like extrinsic motivation, it's not going to work very long, and you're going to get burnt out. You're going to lose that motivation because you're just not going to have that self-motivation. One obstacle comes up and you're dipping out. You're done.
Well, and I think, and we've talked a lot about this, is like planning for those obstacles. Like, all right, what obstacles are you going to hit? And then when you hit them, like our speed bumps, what are you going to do to either get over them, get around them? Like planning for that. So that way, when you hit that first speed bump, it's not just like completely derails you and you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know what to do. And then it's like, well, I might as well just go back to what I was doing. Right. So like planning for those things. Another thing I think is really important, especially because you are going to hit some of these speed bumps, and this might be one of them, is setting boundaries. Right? Like knowing like your non-negotiables. Like, we get people just, throughout our entire career that talk about people in their support group or support network that end up sabotaging them. And it's like, well, I mean, they pretend they want you to do well, but then they start seeing you do well. And for whatever reason, whether it's they feel bad about themselves, they wish they could do it too, they start to sabotage you. And it's like, you're the people that are supposed to support me. And yet here you are constantly like, oh, hey, I just brought these jelly donuts. I know they're your favorite. And be like, well, I'm trying to like, watch what I eat. And like, well, I'll just leave them here. And it's like,
You've
take
been
that.
working so hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Take that shit and get it out of here. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want that. So, setting clear boundaries, and it might get uncomfortable when you're first trying to do it. But the more you stick to those boundaries and you stick to what you're doing, the more people will actually respect what you're doing, and they'll stop doing that stuff.
Mhm.
And honestly, sometimes depending on the person, it might be just be like, well, maybe we don't hang out as much because you're constantly, trying to get me to do XYZ, or like, an easy way to think about this. If you're a recovering alcoholic and you have a friend that constantly is like, sure you don't want to drink? Well, maybe that you should find a new friend.
Mhm.
Well, I mean, you know this story anyway, but when I first lost a bunch of weight after college, I was living in Maryland, and then eventually I moved back to North Carolina, moved into my parents' house, and my grandmother was living there at the time, and very nice woman, but she does not eat very healthy. And my mom and my grandma, they did a lot of cooking, and I would be like, "Yeah, I'm not eating that." And they'd get all upset. And then I would cook dinner and my grandma would complain that it wasn't hearty enough because she wants like gravy and other crap in there. But basically, what ended up happening is kind of what Brendan was talking about with the boundaries. I created a binder and was like, look, if you cook from this binder, I will eat it. If you don't cook from the binder, you can't be offended that I didn't eat it. Like, I've already worked to lose this 70 pounds. Like, I'm not gonna let you sabotage it because you're upset that I wouldn't eat the food that I already told you I wasn't gonna eat.
Mhm.
And so my parents still have that binder. Some of it is like their favorite recipes, and when they like to get back on track, I know they still use it. And actually, maybe I should be taking it to my house. But regardless, like that's some of the boundaries. Like it doesn't have to be like this huge confrontational thing. It's like, yo, this is the cookbook that we're gonna be cooking from, or this is the stuff that I would order from these certain restaurants. So if you want to go there or you want to cook and it's from this stuff, then awesome. But if it's not on this list, like I'm all set for now, unless it's a special occasion or something like that. So yeah, obviously.
And it's never going to be easy. Those conversations are challenging, it's uncomfortable, but you do have to have those. And that's one of the obstacles when we're looking at getting fit and healthy is what does that conversation look like when you are talking to the people in your life or that are surrounding you? How do you get them to understand what you're trying to achieve and why you're trying to achieve it? And sometimes telling them why it's important to you can help them understand that. I don't Not always are people doing these out of malicious intent. It's usually they think they're bringing joy to you or they're bringing benefit to you or happiness to you by pushing you to enjoy whatever good, tasty treat it is or make whatever decision it is. But if that's not aligning with your goal, you may feel guilty about yourself later. It's not actually helping you, but it can be uncomfortable to go through that. It's usually going to take one or two tries of like, hey, I just can't do this right now. I can't eat that food or I can't go out tonight. I have to do whatever. And they'll generally learn. And if they're good friends or they're good family members, they'll hold that boundary and respect that boundary for you. And if they don't, sometimes they're not the right person for you in that season of your life. It's not like you forever have to ignore them or not communicate with them or like remove them from your life, but it could just be for the next 6 months until you kind of get everything on track and you're moving in the right direction. Then you can start to add them back in and like start engaging with them more fully.
Yeah, and you do want to surround yourself with people that are like-minded, or in terms of
Mhm.
like, okay, this is where I want to be. Who's already there, right? And then surround yourself with those type of people, right? I mean, it's an easy analogy, but if you have a bunch of friends that you're trying not to drink anymore, and they all to go out and get smashed, like three nights a week, it's going to be really hard for you to like still feel part of that group and also like just not drink, right?
Mhm.
Like you have to have amazing willpower, and let's be honest, a lot of us do not. So it's like, okay, I need to surround myself with people that, find other things to do that don't involve alcohol, or, hey, I want to get like really rich, but all of us have no money. And well, you should probably surround yourself with some people that have gone through what you're trying to do.
Mhm.
And so they can help you step by step along the way. And they're going to actually want to see you make those changes because they actually want to see you succeed at whatever your goal is.
I think what you just said is pretty important, not necessarily just with the support group, which obviously is important, but also with like finding the right coach and finding the right program and all that. Because one, anticipating the obstacles, like what Jessica was saying earlier on how she found her coach. Like, you're not gonna go to, like, some bodybuilder and who has no kids and all that when you're a new mom trying to get back into fitness, has a busy schedule and all that. Like, you need to find somebody that is relatable, somebody who's been there before and done some things that you're looking to do, and then you find them as the coach and you follow their program. Is it gonna be 100% the same? Probably not, because 'cause we're all a little bit different. We have different lifestyles and different preferences and things like that, but it's the best way to find an example and then help have somebody hold you accountable to actually following those things. So I've said it in a different podcast. One of the problems that we have is a lot of people will try one thing that doesn't deliver the results, the ultimate package they thought they were going to get. And so they backpedal and quit, and that wasn't for me. And then they find a new habit. I'll focus just on this. But it's like if you had just stacked those two habits or three habits, those were probably the biggest levers you could pull to actually see the results. But instead, you keep backsliding, only choosing one at a time, have like, weeks or months in between trying different things. You never actually take that second step. You're just always on the starting line. And it's a shame because a lot of people, they do have that drive and that, wanting and willingness to do it. It's just it's hard for them to take that next step. And sometimes it's because they haven't found a program or a situation that's relatable to them to hold them accountable to it.
I think that's a double-edged sword. Like, a good trainer will be able to train you no matter what your situation is. I do think the benefit of finding someone who's been through the situation previously or has at least worked with a lot of people in that situation is they can anticipate challenges ahead of time and be proactive with it instead of reactive. A good trainer is always going to be reactive to whatever situation comes up because they're good at what they do, they understand it, and it's hard as a person just getting started to find those good trainers and to trust them and like actually seek them out, know where they are because they're probably not on social media and they're probably not the most famous social media. But we're great trainers. We're on social media.
Yeah.
But like the most popular trainers on social media, they are not the best trainers. They're just good at marketing themselves or being entertaining or putting things in a good package that looks nice. That doesn't mean that they are necessarily going to know how to help you solve your problems. Like me, Brennan, and Shane, we've never had kids, but we've worked with people who have had kids and gone through pregnancies and gone through births and the recovery from that for nearly a decade each. Like I feel pretty confident in helping someone come back from that, even though I've never gone through it. But it does take some time to build that confidence. And it can, as a consumer, help build the trust in that person if you know that they've gone through that. Like someone looking to find a training package, just like Jessica did with someone who is a mom. That trust was built right off the bat. So you're more likely to actually follow through and be consistent with what they say and trust what they say because you know that they have gone through it. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they're a better trainer, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree with that.
I would say that for any trainer online
Yeah.
because you don't even know if the results that they have are actually from what the work that they did in the gym or if they're from the work that they had from the doctor or had from
Talk about
taking
calf
steroids.
implants.
Or AI in themselves.
Exactly. I mean, you
they
never
are.
know. Yeah.
That's true. It is going to get, I mean, this is a whole separate different topic, but it
Mm.
is going to be very interesting now with like how good AI is getting. And I know we've talked about that where like you can just upload your picture and then all of a sudden it creates a bunch of videos of you doing whatever and talking and this and that. And it's like you are going to have a very hard time finding the right coach and who to trust and all that. So when people ask like, what are you going to do with AI? I mean, that writes the program. Like, I don't care about it. The programs are the programs. We already talked about stick to the basics. So I'm definitely not worried about that.
Mm.
But also with like, people are going to want that human connection. They're going to want somebody that relates to them, and whether they actually physically themselves had kids or not, they're going to want to have that coach in front of them and that support system to help them through certain obstacles that I don't think AI or social media is really going to help with.
We're pretty expensive. The program we do is nothing proprietary. Like it's not trademarked. You can find pretty much this same thing online, meaning you could also get it in AI. Like it is available and it's out there. There's nothing special about the training itself. It's well balanced and it's well programmed, but there's no special sauce to it. What's special is the community of the people in the gym with you at the same time, the trainers, and like the trainers actually getting to know you. One of our new people walked in today, and I called him by his first name, and he like was surprised that I knew his name right off the bat, and I was like, "Yeah, of course I know your name." And I started asking him about his family and like what he does. Like those are the things that get people more trust, and then like actually show up and keeps people consistent. So when you are looking for a gym, try to find something that has a community. And honestly, that's why CrossFit blew up and why High Rocks is blowing up right now is because it has that built-in community effect of you're all going through a challenge, a similar challenge or a similar struggle together, and you automatically trust that person more.
Yeah. You all have this similar goal in mind, and you can all like help each other, lift each other up to
Mhm.
achieve that goal. Which is why, like I said, it's really important to find like people that are like on the same path as you, or have already been there and can help bring you along.
Mhm.
We're tribal creatures. We want to be in a group. Every conflict is all about my group versus your group. It's never about an individual, or at least an individual that doesn't have a following behind them as well. Like it's always group based. So trying to find that community, whatever it is, online community, in-person community, something like that is going to get you more motivated and more driven in the gym to show up and be honest with yourself. That's why Facebook and social media is blown up because everyone wants to be seen, wants to be similar, wants to feel like they belong.
Even at big box gyms where there's a lot of lone wolves, they still like to be in a group of lone wolves because they're bunch of dudes that, the gym that we used to work at, they'd have their headphones in, they just give the head nod, fist bump, do whatever. And like there's, not much talking or communication in that way, but you still looked forward to seeing those other people at the gym.
Mm.
You might not know each other's names for 5 years, but
Yeah.
there's definitely that like, oh man, I didn't see you last week. Everything good? Like awesome. Put your headphones back in and then hit whatever lift you were about to do. But yeah, I totally agree with that. The community aspect is something that we all crave, and I think as we see more social media and other things kind of blowing up and taking more time, people crave that social connection even more in person.
Love the whole like a bunch of lone wolves getting together talking about lone wolf stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you start to hear some howling in a gym, you should probably go away from the
Yeah.
corner.
Yeah.
Avoid it at all costs.
But do you guys have any other advice for people that are like looking to start a program or to find a program that would work for them? We covered a lot of topics there.
I think the biggest thing is to just find something. Even for me, I can write my own program. I know people around me that can write programs. I'm decent at lifting, but finding something that I know what I need to do is going to give you the best benefit. It doesn't have to be perfect. It doesn't have to be the most optimal thing for you, but something that you know that is working towards some form of goal is going to be a better bang for your buck and a better effort than just trying to spend 7 months finding the perfect program. Just start something. Doesn't have to be crazy.
And it's not going to be uncomfortable forever. Maybe the first couple weeks you'll feel uncomfortable going to the gym or starting a new class, but then it's going to get more like second nature. You're going to start finding your community, your friends, you'll have a flow, and it gets easier. It's not always going to be uncomfortable. So,
Yeah, definitely. And then kind of going back to what you said, jumping from like you're always on the starting line because you're jumping from thing to thing. Don't necessarily worry about the results. Like, and find something that you actually enjoy the process of doing, right? Because then, like, again, you step on the scale and you're like, well, I just gained 2 pounds and I've been trying to lose weight. Well, guess we got to totally ditch that plan. Well, some days, yeah, you're gonna gain weight. It's not a perfect straight line of weight, like weight loss or fat loss, right? There's gonna be those ups and downs. We're just trying to trend in the right direction. So find something that you actually enjoy, right? The process of doing, and you're going to be more likely to stick to it. You're going to be more likely to build the habits around it, and then the results will follow.
I'd say my last thing would be just don't be afraid to be vulnerable, because one, it's gonna help you out a lot. If you're dwelling in kind of shame, like, oh, I don't know, and this, you're gonna stay at that starting line a lot longer. But if you open up and say, like, this is what I'm struggling with, these are what my goals are, and if you ask somebody else, who you think, in this case, I'll say Jess again, because we train mostly women, but it's like, oh, she's just naturally fit and this and that. If you start to talk to other people, most other people already have, overcome some similar obstacles that you are. You can ask them for advice and have a more open and honest conversation. One of the things that we hear a lot when a new person comes in is like, well, I'm not looking to be a bodybuilder. I'm not looking to get back in a bikini. It's like, okay, like,
Do we
I
look like we're
yeah, I was
bodybuilders?
about to say, I'm
also
also
not
not
one.
gonna be in a bikini, so don't worry about that, like, but just be open, don't be afraid to fail, because there's a lot of lessons that you're gonna learn in that failure, and it's just one step closer to actually succeeding, so, and I wouldn't even look at it as a failure, it's just, okay, that plan or that part of the plan didn't exactly work for you, what went wrong, and then readjust, and just, again, continue to ask for help, whether it's from your support system or from a coach or someone else who you aspire to be like.
Yeah, no one stepped into the gym and was like, wow, everything just worked out perfectly for me. It's like
Hmm.
it's just never happened.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, we appreciate you guys tuning in for this episode of the Longevity Lab. If you guys want to connect with us, our social medias will be down in the description. And again, I will leave that school link down there as well if you want to check that out. We'll see you guys in the next one.